Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Now, I know this might be a big shock to people, but there are books outside of the Cosme and Brandon Sanderson's work that I do enjoy. So why don't we get into it with my 5 current favorite fantasies and sci-fi series. Starting out with number 1, A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. Now, granted, don't get these confused with the Game of Thrones TV show, because as great as the first couple of seasons were, the ending was kind of, yeah, let's just say it was bad. Granted, we might not get an ending of the books, but who knows? We'll see. Either way, if we do ever get Winds of Winter and a Dream of Spring, I don't think it matters as much as I would love for George to actually finish those. The books we have right now are amazing, and I just love that series. Not only the characters, but the unexpected twists and turns you get in a lot of fantasy that you expect. Instead, George just throws it out the window for you. You'll have to read it for yourself. I won't get into too much spoilers, but along with the character dynamics, I especially just love the darker tone to it. Now, George R.R. Martin is a grimdark author, at least in these books. I haven't read any of his other book series, but please let me know what you think of them if you've read them. I'd be very interested. I will say, however, some people do overemphasize like how dark and morally gray the characters are. Yes, they are morally gray, and people might disagree with me on this. I do still think there's a clear good characters and bad characters. Sure, they might have more nuance than you'll see in other fantasy and sci-fi books, but I mean, how Ned, John, Brienne, they're all good people. Cersei, Joffrey, Ramsay, Tywin, they're all pieces of crap. Sure, they have all their sympathetic moments, and Tywin's clever and a mastermind. That doesn't make him a good person. Yes, there is a lot more gray and not as much black and white, but I will push back against those who say, oh, there are no heroes or villains in A Song of Ice and Fire, which, at least in my opinion, there clearly are. But that aside, I especially enjoy the journey characters such as Jaime goes from. He goes from pushing a 10-year-old boy out of a window to how he is in A Dance of Dragons. I just love that change in character development. I just hope that even if Martin does kind of backtrack on that a little bit, it's a lot smoother and makes far more sense than the treatment Jaime received in the TV show. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, just very cringy and bad. Not at all like the books, with the great dialogue and scenes and prose and character development. I will say there are some aspects, such as the sex scenes and a few descriptions Martin has, that I think are way too over the top, or at least for me, could have been cut down. But that doesn't matter too much. What does matter is just an interesting story he throws at you, and the great world building and the magic. If you have only seen the show, you might think that there is really no magic or super minor magic in the story. But A Song of Ice and Fire, especially as you read on in the series, does have a lot more magic system to it. It's not a main focal point, but it is there and growing far more important as the series goes on. Now, with that out of the way, let's get on to my second favorite, well, at least book series number 2. This is, again, in no particular order. We have Brandon Sanderson's The Stormlight Archive. Now, I am sure this is a great shock to absolutely no one, but yes, this is one of my top 5 fantasy and sci-fi series. Doesn't have to go without saying, characters are great, world building is great. I am super pumped for book 5 this December. I'm very much looking forward to Winds and Truth. And I especially enjoy Brandon's handling of characters with mental illness and the development between them, and all his in-depth magic systems. I especially love the exploration of the Spren and the Shard Plate and the Shard Blades, and just how he delves more and more into the Parshendi. I'm really hoping we hear more from them in book 5. As for the characters, they are pretty good. I will say I do think Brandon, as he obviously has great characters in the Stormlight Archives, I think Martin is better in the more minor character development than Brandon is. At least with Mistborn and Elantris, he is a lot better in Stormlight. However, my favorite aspect of Stormlight, though, is likely the world building and just the character development we see in Shallan, Kaladin, Adolin, Dalinar, Renarin, Navani, and so many others. If you do read this book, just be prepared. They are each long books. They can be, at least they can be kind of slow at some points, but if you do read them, they will be an amazing read. I won't overhype it like some people do, because yeah, while Stormlight is a fun book series, it does have some flaws, and as and despite that though, this is still one of my top 5 fantasy and sci-fi series. Okay, let's get on to another one I've not talked about yet on this channel, and that is number 3, The Expanse. Unfortunately, I have not yet seen much of the TV show. I watched the first couple episodes, didn't get more further into it, not because I disliked it or anything, I just stopped watching it. I'll probably have to get back into that. However, the books themselves, speaking of world building, I just love the sci-fi aspect of this and the ancient alien megastructures and just the idea of a civilization far more advanced than humans by actually about 2 billion years, plus more than that actually about 2 billion years, if not more than humans, gets wiped out by even more mysterious, ancient, and powerful cosmic horror-like civilization we know nothing about. And I really enjoy the exploration of the Ring Network and how it's able to take people to different worlds and the conflict between Earth, Mars, and the outer planets. And I think it's really realistic how that conflict is built and developed over the years, and especially with how the sci-fi aspect goes into it with the science and that Martians and people from the asteroid belt and the moons of Jupiter and Saturn are taller than people from Earth because Earth has higher gravity than Mars and these asteroids and small moons and whatnot. So that makes a ton of sense, and I love how it carries over with not just the scientific details, but just the world building and mystery and even horror and unknowability of these powerful aliens and how and why one was destroyed by the other and what that means for humanity. And this, I especially love this diverse array of characters because we get so many characters from different walks of life, different planets, different moons, and just so much. I will say there are a couple point of view characters that are hit and miss for me, but I mean, with an expansive book series like The Expanse, and any other books that have POV characters such as Stormlight and Game of Thrones before it, you are going to have some of those characters you prefer reading more of and less of. And I love the visceral description that the author goes into. Yeah, Corey, that's his name. J.S. Corey or whatever, goes into, especially in book 1 with the description of Julian, what these strange, essentially parasitic alien creatures are doing. Not the creatures, it's proto-molecules, but they essentially mutate in people's bodies and create sort of symbiosis slash hive mind. And I just love just the raw eeriness of that and just how well it's done. And for people who like space opera, this will be an enjoyable read for you. I will say it might not be for everybody, mainly for the fact some people might not like all the technical terms to it, and it can be a little bit slow paced at times. But if you do enjoy space opera, this is a book series for you. And with that out of the way, let's get on to series number 4, The Wheel of Time. Not super controversial, as a ton of people do like The Wheel of Time, although granted, there are some people who don't like it, and I understand. Book 1, especially the beginning, is a little tropey with the chosen hero coming from a small backwaters town and blah blah blah. However, the build-up and how Robert Jordan makes it and what he does with that is not tropey at all, and it gets away from the kind of Lord of the Rings tropey feeling from the beginning as you move on in the series. And I just love that, just to build with these characters and the world building, and how, while it's not stated outright, the Wheel of Time Age 3, which is where the tapes are, is actually a future or past version of Earth. And I really enjoy those little tidbits we see of different ages and of our own age, which takes place sometimes in this world's history or future. I very much enjoyed the Forsaken because I think they're compelling antagonists, and I love how they fight and bicker between themselves. And I think that's really realistic and believable because obviously these people, these megalomaniacs who just want more power and whatnot, are going to fight with each other and try to become on top. They're not necessarily going to all get along hunky-dory and serving the big bad evil guy. One of those Forsaken, which I won't name because I forgot his name. Oh, Moradin. Moradin? No, whatever. That guy. I especially like how, because he's not in it for the power, he's in it for philosophical reasoning, believing that since this battle between good and evil, between the Dark One and the Dragon Reborn, is going to happen for infinity each time back. His idea is that, well, eventually the Dark One's going to win. Now, it's up to you to decide if it's up to you to decide if you think that's a good or a bad philosophical argument or not. But I would much like that his reasoning was not just for power. He had another reasoning for why he joined the Dark One. Now, speaking of Wheel of Time, I will get into a very controversial opinion here. And now, my fellow Wheel of Time fans, prepare to leave your hate comments below. I can see you typing at them. I'm looking forward to them. Matt Cawthon is a horrible, overrated character. There, I said it. Let the hate comments come. I know they're on the way, all you Matt Cawthon supporters. But I will at least give some explanation why I don't like him. He's whiny. He never gets over his reluctant character trope. I mean, sure, I understand it for a while, but I mean, in the last book, A Memory of Light, when the whole world was falling apart, he is running away, not necessarily because he's afraid or because he doesn't want to do it, which, actually, no, he does not want to do it. It's more that, oh, well, you guys are all stupid for wanting to try to defeat the bad guys, try to prevent all this evil. I am the smart one for going south and getting away from this all, while you all idiots are going up here. And he's essentially forced into becoming the general. I mean, granted, he is a great general. He's smart, he's lucky, and he has a fun personality. I just think Matt Cawthon is insufferable. And also his whole thing with the tower. Granted, the first time he entered it was an accident. The latter two times, if you go into an alternate, essentially pocket dimensional magical beings you don't know much about, and you don't bother learning about it, it's on you when bad stuff happens to you, or they just seems to quote unquote harass you or whatnot. It's all on Matt. Granted, I have not read Wheel of Time for a while. I do plan on doing a reread, so maybe I'll assess and change my opinion on Matt. Maybe I'm misunderstanding or remembering something wrong. I don't know. But as the three main characters, I much prefer Perrin and Rand. Perrin above them all, although admittedly, some parts, especially in the later books of his arcs and his storylines, tend to be a lot more boring than Matt's and Perrin's. Characters out of the way, though. I really enjoy the magic system in Sidon and Sidar and how they interact and how one is tainted. And for people who get into this, be prepared there is a slog in the middle books, but the beginning and the ending of the series is just an epic ride any fantasy fan will not regret reading. And now, on to book series number 5. Again, this is in no particular order. I especially enjoy The Divide. Now, I've only read the first 2 books. The third one comes out later this month in November, and I do plan on reading it. It's sort of like the Night's Watch in space. I say that because the universe, they're at the outer edge of the universe, and this kind of like, they're at the outer edge of the universe, and realize, oh crap, the universe is starting to contract back on itself. I just find that a fascinating, interesting idea of the essentially of I believe it's called the Big Crunch, where the universe expands, and then starts contracting, getting smaller and smaller and smaller. I think that's a fascinating and fun idea. The characters are pretty interesting. I mostly though enjoy the development of the world and the interaction with that world, how the universe is essentially getting closer, and I won't say restarting, but I think it's a fun concept, and you all have to read it. I won't get much more into that because, unlike the previous books I have mentioned, I've only read this book series once, and book 3 is coming out, so I'll leave my further opinions once I finish that book. And there we have it. So far, 5 of my favorite fantasy and sci-fi series. I will give some honorable mentions. The Dagger and the Coin, Imperial Rach, let's say Rach, Imperial Rach, Mistborn. Let's do those 3 for now for honorable mentions, etc. Of other books. Oh, sorry. Another honorable mention, Jade Bone Saga. Not in my top 5 because I've only read the first one, though I am very much looking forward to reading Jade War and Jade Legacy. And there we have it. Let's leave that my honorable mentions for now. Oh, And sorry, Lord of the Rings, of course, has to be an honorable mention, and Dune. And there we have it, finally. My honorable mentions for my favorite sci-fi and fantasy series. Please let me know what you think. What are your favorites? And how much do you hate me for not liking Matt Cawthon? Please let me know in the comments below. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you next time.